time to run. They'll string me up for all that I've done. I'm going soon, I'm gonna leave tonight. Another lot of I did it all for you. Well, I hope you know the lengths I've gone to. What's Amanda said? They'll be looking for me, I should be on my way. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. I wanted everyone to know you're the girl for me. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. But I ain't never gonna let them take a life from me. Have no regrets. I will not ask for your forgiveness, no your defense. Run away with me and it'll all make sense. I did it all for you. Find me after all I've gone through. No time to rest. I'm gonna find me a life better way out west. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. I wanted everyone to know you're the girl for me. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. But I ain't never. It's time to run. Well, I hope you understand what I've done. I'm gonna wait for you. I'm gonna count the days till you make it. I did it all for you. Well, I hope you live the life you want to. My time is spent. But baby, please don't tell them just where I went. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. I wanted everyone to know you're the girl for me. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. But I ain't never gonna let them take a life from me. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. I wanted everyone to know you're the girl for me. I wanted everybody else in the world to know it. But I ain't never.
Still don't know what I was waiting for, and my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I'd got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me. But I've never caught a glimpse how the others must see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. It's gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. Ooh, yeah. I watch the ripples change their size, but never leave the stream of warm and permanent sand. So the days float through my eyes, but still the days seem the same. And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. Changes. Turn and face the strange. Changes. Don't tell them to grow up out of it. Changes. Turn and face the strange. Changes. Where's the shame you've left us up to her next in it? Time may change me, but you can't twist time. Strange fascination fascinating me. Our changes are taking the pace I'm going through. Changes. Turn and face the strange. Changes.
Good morning, everyone. It's a mediocre morning, apparently. Good morning. I'm Randy Bennett with the University of Florida, and welcome to day 2 of Journalism Interactive. Hope everyone had a good morning at the coffee shops this morning, good discussions. Our first session this morning is one of my favorite parts of JI, the Student Innovation Showcase. Really see the innovation and the creativity coming from our students is really exciting and rewarding. So we're going to get started. We have 4 teams this morning. Each are going to have about 12 minutes to present their idea and their program. First up is Ball State. Our presenters are Nathan DeYoung, Jessica Golden, and Casey Smith. Their advisor is Adam Kubin. And they're going to talk about their partnership with the Facing Project to debut Depression in East Central Indiana. With that, Ball State.
Good morning. My name is Nathan DeYoung,
Oh, I'm Jessica Golden.
And my name's Casey Smith.
and we are students from Ball State University, previous scholars of the Louis Englehart Journalism Scholars Program from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. Now, you might be wondering, what is the Louis E. Englehart Journalism Scholars Program? Well, it's a program in which freshman students at Ball State University have the opportunity to participate in a program that identifies them as potential leaders in journalism and related fields. 15 students gather together in this class that meets once a week over a year period. That's only 2 credit hours. But to start today's presentation off for the Facing Project, we have a quick video clip to show you.
Wish TV with news around the clock, online, on air, and on the go. Now, 24-hour News 8 at 6 continues.
Connecting people through stories to strengthen communities. That's the purpose behind the Facing Project.
Yeah, it started as a one-time project in Muncie, has now grown into an international movement. And as 24-hour News 8's Chris Bavender tells us, a group of Ball State students is leading the charge for change.
Alrighty. So, the Facing Project is a national umbrella organization. We kind of touched on that. And so they connect people through stories to strengthen communities. That's the motto, of course. So what they do is organize groups of people, different places throughout the country, and they gather to tell the stories of certain stigmatized social issues in the community. So past facing projects have included facing homelessness, facing sex trafficking, facing addiction, things like that. They've been featured on NPR, NBC, WIPB, and the HuffPost. They're really growing as an organization very quickly, actually, and there's a lot of different facing projects popping up in college campuses all over the place. So, moving into our iteration of the Facing Project, Facing Depression, I am a junior advertising major, so you might be wondering how I fit in with a storytelling type of project. Well, I was able to learn to use my skills to sell the heart and soul of what we're doing using both the visual and written word.
And I'm a telecommunications, news, and meteorology major, so you might be wondering, how does that fit into a project like this? I served as a writer on the project, and that allowed me the ability to broaden my skills as a potential journalist to make sure that I'm developing the skills to share the stories in a proper way. But I also served as a community advocate for the project. I worked with the Building Better Communities program, but we also worked with on-campus organizations like the All-Campus Leadership Conference, where we showcased the project, and worked with High School J Day, in which we shared the project there too.
Yeah, so I'm a journalism news major, so I also, as Nathan did a lot of writing for the project. That was my main kind of job that I had, and then I also helped do a lot of the community work, working with community partners, and after the Facing Depression project, I went on to work with 3 other Facing projects. I'm currently working with Facing Cancer, which is this year's Englehart Scholars project. So it's definitely been very impactful for me, and this is something that I would like to continue doing while at Ball State and then beyond, definitely.
Yeah, so our next thing that we wanted to do is showcase you our project goals that we came up with. And our first project goal that we came up with was that we wanted to strengthen the community through the stories. We felt that was very important to this project as a whole. You might notice that that kind of reflects what the Facing Project is all about. It's the same core values that the Facing Project is based on. Our second project goal that we came up with was we wanted to give a voice to those living with depression. We knew that it was extremely important that our community knew who was living with depression and what they could do to potentially help themselves through the stories of others. And our third and final goal of our project was to reach and connect with the audience in a new way. We knew that we wanted to produce a book, and we knew that we wanted to connect with our audience in a new, innovative way. And that's ultimately what we did with the Facing Project.
All right, so you might be asking what makes this project particularly unique compared to like a traditional news story, because we do tell stories. There is an emotional connection with the reader, and this can be accomplished with traditional journalism, pretty easily. However, this is unique because we are making it community-oriented. It is for the community. We are making the connections, and the stories are all told from a first-person perspective. So it really starts to forge that connection with the reader that some stories really just can't.
So this Facing Project and all others work in a very unique way, like Jessica said. Writers and community members are brought together to tell these stories. The storytellers tell their stories to the writers, and the writer's job is to tell that story, like she said, through a first-person perspective. And then in that process, the group kind of working to organize the project works with community partners, which we'll talk about in a second, and then that's kind of how the project gets rolling and how you're able to promote it and get it out to the people in the community.
Yeah, so we bridged it together by having the process of having writers and storytellers paired, and that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about in terms of target audiences. We knew that a natural fit audience for this project was Muncie, Indiana. Obviously, that was our hometown, where the university's based. That was our biggest impact where we wanted. But we also wanted to make sure that the book was designed to reach audiences abroad. We knew that depression wasn't just something happening in Muncie, Indiana. It's happening in communities all across the United States and even abroad. We wanted to make sure that our book also fit those audiences, and so our book is also under review in the Community Engaged Scholarship for Health program at the University of Minnesota at this moment.
So you might be asking yourself, why the community in this way? And we are here to tell you that every community does have some type of uniting common bond, and what we're trying to do is find it and sort of not exploit it, but utilize it in a way that we can start creating a community discourse and a dialogue for people to start talking about these issues that aren't usually covered in such a very public way.
So when it comes to putting this project together, how it kind of works is we went to partners in the community, and we talked to them to gather storytellers, the people who are going to tell the writers their stories. Ultimately, members from our scholars class were writers, and we also had some other people from the university who contributed as writers as well. And so from that point, the writers and the storytellers are paired together, and these interviews take place. And these are very non-traditional interviews that go on. You meet with your storyteller several different times. These are interviews that are going to last several hours long. It's very like social journalism, like put your pencil down journalism, where you just listen and you work with the storyteller to tell the story that the way that they want it to be told, because ultimately it is their story. So that's kind of how that process works.
Yeah, so now we need to talk a little bit more about the financial backing to this project. Every project has to have some type of basin to it to make sure that it gets off the ground. And we did have a lot of support from the university, but also our community. Just looking at the overview of the budget up there, we had about $1,000 come from our Building Better Communities program at Ball State University. That's a program on campus that supports immersive learning projects that happen on campus and makes sure that they are connected with the community in an appropriate manner through a monetary donation. Then we also received about $500 from our College of Communications and Information Media, which is CCIM on the budget. And then we received $250 from the Department of Journalism and English. And then we also held a GoFundMe campaign that showcased on social media, in which we asked for crowdsourced funding for the project as a whole. And then the $272 came from a project that we worked on inside the book. If you look inside the book, if you have one, on page 42, we stuck envelopes inside the books that debuted at the event, in which we asked for monetary donations at the event to support our project and further the completion. In the end, we wanted that the monetary donations be used to potentially print more books to supply out to the community and audiences abroad there.
So like I said, I'm an ad student, so promotion was a big part of this project for me. We hit really hard on social media to try to reach out to both the Ball State and the Muncie communities. We had the students in the Englehart Scholars class tweet out facts and information on a really regular basis. We got to utilize print media for both on campus and in the community as well, which is particularly effective for Muncie. Some people have limited access with that. And then we also were able to post blogs written by the Englehart Scholar students. And as the project finished, we also posted our stories on there. And we also went the PR route pretty hard and sent out a lot of press releases and tried our best to get some news coverage for this, which was actually very successful.
So this might sound like it takes a really long time to do. In this case, we started planning in October of 2014, but we actually commenced the project in January of 2015. And from that point, we had about 4 months to match the storytellers and the writers, to get the stories written, to have the community event planned out, and then to actually have the community event. So between January and April of 2015 is when this project took place. So it definitely took a lot of planning, but it was very doable to do in that amount of time. So yeah, the 4 months during that time, you would match your storytellers and your writers. They would have about 4 to 6 weeks to produce the story, to have it vetted by their storyteller, and then to have it turned back in so the book could be printed.
Alrighty, so after we get our stories written, there was about a 2-week book design turnaround time, and then we, were able to get it printed, and then the book lives now in the members of the community. We were able to distribute it at a showcase event, but it's also at the offices of local mental health professionals. It's at our Ball State Counseling Center, and it's also at the Muncie Public Library. So that was our final deliverable, our book, but there was also a community showcase event. We kind of been touching on that, so I'll explain it a little bit more for you. We, at the Muncie, a local small theater, had a monologue reading of selected stories from Facing Depression. Members of the community were invited, members of Ball State were invited, and overall it was a very moving event for people to see the stories displayed in such a way, and then also for those who were brave enough to tell their stories to be able to go out and see the final project was actually pretty amazing. And so beyond the book and beyond the showcase, there was, the Facing Project. Where is it now? Well, in the Englehart Scholars does do a Facing Project every year now. And this year they're tackling facing cancer, and a lot of us, Casey, are going back to write the stories and to help and to keep the Facing Project alive. So what this does is creates a facing community at Ball State for us, and it's living and it's breathing and it's growing.
Yeah, so if this is something you want to learn more about, we'd be more than happy to talk to you after today's presentation about more of the logistical details behind putting together a Facing Project. We also want to point you in the direction, if you Google search the Facing Project, they have lots of resources on their website that are available to you too. We also have our Twitter handles up here, so feel free to tweet at us any questions that you may have. Other than that, thank you for your time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Next school is the University of Miami. Our presenter is Louise Whitaker, and the advisor was Lynn Cherney. And they're going to talk about how they used UNICEF data to visualize issues related to maternal and child mortality. University of Miami. It's on. You're good.
Oh, it is? Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Louise Whitaker. I'm a current graduate student at the University of Miami studying interactive media. And this was a project that I put together about infant mortality specifically, and yes, we can start the video. So it's actually a website, but since I don't have a computer here, I'm just gonna kind of talk, this is kind of a walkthrough of the page that I created. And my focus was in infant mortality, specifically in the United States. And I started off, here we go. I started off looking at data across the world and saw that from 1950 to present day, that infant mortality is defined as the number of babies that die before their first birthday per every 1,000 born. So this is the infant mortality across the world, and as you can see, it's declined. And my first question was, okay, well, where does the United States fall on this? And so you can see it looks pretty good when you compare it to the rest of the world. But when I took away all of the other countries and just focused on high-income developed countries, it was a totally different story. And as you can see at the beginning, it didn't start off as the worst, but it is certainly the worst now. And then this graph is a bar chart that shows that in 1960, the United States falls somewhere in the middle, but by 1990, it fell to the fourth worst. And by 2015, it was the worst by almost 1%. And so I kind of wanted to look into, well, why is this? What factors could cause the United States to have this problem? And one of the first things that I noticed was that the United States has a significantly higher preterm birth rate than any of the other developed countries. And the United States is highlighted in orange. And as you can see, if you hover over it on any of these graphs, you can see where it falls on all the little bar charts below. And so, yeah, looking at the preterm birth rate, it was significant. The United States is a significant outlier in this. But then I wanted to look at other factors as well. So I looked at the Gini index, which measures equality across different countries. The closer a country is to 100%, the more unequal it is. So you want a score of 0% for a totally equal country, which there aren't any. But the United States, out of all the high-income developed countries, has the most inequality in it. And yeah, you can see it up there. It falls at 45% on the Gini index. And then I looked at the adolescent birth rate, so teen births. It's an issue that, we talk about a lot in the United States, and New Zealand is actually one of the other outliers with the United States on this, but as you can see in the bar charts below, it has a lot of similar issues to the United States too. But having the highest adolescent birth rate was also an interesting piece that I found. But what's even more interesting is we know that the United States spends the most per capita on healthcare. So interestingly enough, that the United States would have a problem like this considering they spend the most. We would think that we would be able to spend our way out of this problem, but obviously not. I also looked at some other factors like obesity, just kind of to see about general health in the country, as well as the maternal mortality. But then from there, I wanted to break down the issues within the United States. And I found some really significant data that looked at different groups across the United States and found that babies born to black women are twice as likely to die before their first birthday as babies born to white women, Hispanic women, and Asian women. So we have a huge inequality problem in the United States, as this is evidence. This shows evidence of that. We also have the highest preterm birth rate, and babies born before 34 weeks are over 20 times more likely than babies born at full term to pass away before they're, yes, they're more than likely to pass away. And then I looked at the mother's age, and that also played a factor, given that we have the highest adolescent birth rate, and babies born to women under the age of 20 are also more likely to pass away, and that's due to many factors, such as them not being able to get adequate prenatal care, which is then the next thing that I wanted to look into. And I was shocked to find that in the United States, only 60% of women receive what is considered adequate prenatal care. And the different groups, as you can see, Native American women as well as Black women are less likely to receive adequate prenatal care than their white counterparts, as well as women under the age of 20 are also less likely. So the next piece that I looked into was the top causes of death of infants in the United States. And there's this giant other category that I'll hover over in a second here. Yeah, so there's the other category. But the next one is birth defects, many of which are caused by preterm birth, things like that. But then there's also the low birth rate, which is the second highest, which is directly correlated to preterm births in the United States. And then the one below it is maternal complications, which if more women were receiving adequate prenatal care, a lot of these deaths could be avoided as well. From there, I wanted to look at kind of the highs and lows of the United States and see where these problems were. And in the South is where the biggest problem is. The infant mortality in some of these southern states is 9.6 as compared to the US's average of about 5.6. And so this is Mississippi. On this tooltip, you can see the United States is the lighter orange and the state is the darker orange on these dot plots. And you can see the births by race and births by age of mother. And in Mississippi, there are more babies born to Black women, and there are also more babies born to teen moms in Mississippi. So that could help account for why they have a higher preterm birth or a higher infant mortality rate when we've looked at the fact that babies born to Black women as well as teen moms are more likely to die before their first birthday. And then Alabama has very similar issues, as you can see on here. Again, more Black babies, or more babies are born to Black women, as well as more babies born to teen moms than the United States' average. And then I think I hover over Louisiana here in a second to show the same point. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was very interesting to look at the different states and see that there is kind of sort of a regional problem here as well. And then the last part of the project, these were these mini bar charts, and they look at data in all of the states. And if you hover over one bar, you can see where the state falls on all of the bars, which I did here. This one's infant mortality. There's Massachusetts, the lowest, Mississippi at the highest. You can see where it falls on all of the other different charts. And you can see it has the highest preterm birth rate, and interestingly enough, the lowest abortion rate of all of the states. And what I noticed from this was you can't point to any particular issue and say this is exactly why infant mortality is high in a particular state, but we can definitely see that there are trends and different issues. Louisiana and Alabama having higher preterm birth rates as well, generally having higher poverty rates, and higher obesity rates as well. So just kind of looking at different factors and seeing that while there was no direct cause, we can see lots of different issues that create that. And then Massachusetts, which had a higher abortion rate, for example, lower obesity rates. They have the lowest teen birth rate in the United States out of all of the states. And so they're looking at that. So yeah, this was a project that I put together in Lynn Cherney's class. I coded it all by hand in D3. So that was an interesting experience in and of itself, learning D3 for the first time. I knew JavaScript going into it, but nothing like this. And D3 is definitely a difficult thing to learn to do. As I go down here, you can see all of the sources. We started off with UNICEF data in this class, and then I kind of took my own route and started looking at specifically the United States. The CDC had a lot of data on this, as well as the Kaiser Family Foundation and other government websites like the census. So, yeah, and then I think here in a second it should show. Yep, there's my there's the link to the webpage if you want to check it out and play with it. And there's my contact information. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Louise. That was great. The third school is the University of Missouri. Our presenter is Taylor Nakagawa. The advisor was Mike McKean and the Associated Press. They worked with the Associated Press and the Reynolds Journalism Institute to produce a story about the long-delayed 2nd Avenue subway in Manhattan. Taylor.
Are we human? Or are we dancer?
My name's Taylor Nakagawa. I'm a convergence journalism major at the University of Missouri, and I'm also a senior. First of all, I wanted to give a shout out to the two other people who worked on this project. It wasn't just me, it was also Mike. All right, so it wasn't just me, it was two other students who worked with me. Their names are Haley Reed and Berkeley Lovelace. Just wanted to make sure that this wasn't a solo project. So to start off, I'm going to go through this by first going through the story and then talking about the process and I guess the thought behind how we put it all together. So if we can pull up the story right now. Great. So this is the first part of our story. When we first were approached with the story, it was presented to us as a full-on VR project. So I don't know if you saw or went to the presentation yesterday that had the people from Riot and Dan Archer's group in there. But originally it was presented as this full-blown VR story. We wanted it to be completely immersive, but once we started doing a lot more research on the subway itself, we realized that in order to present the entire complexity of a construction project like this, we needed to kind of break it down and break it into different elements so that by fully making it an immersive experience, we wouldn't be able to fully tell the entire story of the construction. So to start it off, we made this 360 video of walking down from street level down to the subway.
Welcome to the construction site.
Okay, and this doesn't. A lot of these elements are kind of finicky
The
right now.
2nd Avenue subway. We are traveling.
But anyway, this doesn't work so well in this browser, but it works really well in Chrome and Firefox. So we can stop that one. So anyway, this will take you from the street level all the way down to the platform where it eventually. Great. So it'll take you from the street level all the way down to where the place where you get on the train eventually is. So then after that, we wanted to break it up with a little bit of text to just give you, kind of reiterate those stats that you heard from this video, show you where the subway line is actually running, and kind of reiterate what you heard from this video. Next, we wanted to take you to the actual digging process, explain how the drill that they were using to cut through the entire the Manhattan schist is what they call it. It's like the sediment that they've been cutting through for the past 8 years. So we made this graphic video.
This tunnel boring machine is like a giant mechanical earthworm that consists of multiple parts to achieve this task. The technique used to drill from station to station is known as a horizontal directional drilling, or as some people call it mole drilling. Mole drilling consists of a small hole initially being drilled forward.
If we could stop. Great. So when we were making this video, we were thinking that because the complexities of the drill are so complicated, if you were to put someone in a headset like a Samsung VR or something, it'd be way too distracting to actually look at all these pieces moving and trying to listen to what it takes to, I guess, drill through the sediment. So in that sense, we want it to be a little bit more of a passive experience and have people, really get to know the quirks behind drilling through this thing. So next, we wanted, since you were at the platform originally, we wanted to take you through the actual subway and give users an experience that they would never see before. Even if you were to ride the subway every single day, you would not necessarily be able to actually walk through the tunnel itself. So if you can scroll down a little bit more, we took our Ricoh Theta camera and walked through the subway to give you some 360 view of what it looks like during construction. And then those 3 sections above there, give you a little bit more context between the freezing technique that they had to use in this section of the tunnel specifically. The sediment that they were drilling through was a really muddy kind of sediment, and they had to freeze a section of the subway in order to drill through it. Also, the budgetary constraints of the next phase of the project are a big concern for the Manhattan Transit Authority. They were, highly over budget on this project, and for the next one, they're not even sure if they're going to be able to get a lot of state or federal money to continue it on. And also, we wanted to explain the history of the project. It originally was supposed to start in the 1930s, but because of the Great Depression, they had some setbacks and weren't able to actually start until 2008. And along with that, there's an interview around all three of these that have one of the communications director for the MTA along with there. So again, we're just traveling through this whole subway tunnel until you get to the crossover station, which is our next element. If you could go down. Scroll down a little bit more. So great. So after you're getting all this information and trying to soak it all in, we wanted you to have some type of an even deeper immersive type of interaction. So we had our Matterport 3D scanner that we brought to this one cross station that kind of lets you, so much as just relax and explore this whole area for yourself. So if you click on this one, might take a little bit to load. Great. So this is where we eventually stopped. This is about, I'd say, 7 or 8 blocks past where you eventually went down into the tunnel. And if you click around this area, you can look around and everything. And physically, it kind of feels like you're walking around this area. But if you click certain sections of the area, you can walk around in there. It's not working too well right now. Anyway, so this is kind of just to break up the whole speed of the entire thing, all the information you're getting. It's kind of one way to just completely, walk around the area and really experience it for yourself. So the next process of the story is to take you above ground and help you empathize with the people who live in the area, and to give you a perspective of what their life is like every single day. Not only trying to get around it, but also trying to conduct business around the entire area. So we used StorySphere to help bring those people who live around the subway to this project. This one also is a broken link as well. I promise it works really well in Firefox and Chrome. Anyway, so you guys can check that out. So in this area, in this space, we bring you one bike shop owner who lives all around the construction, and he sees these big kind of blocks right here as really an unnecessary thing that he has to live with every single day. They're used to just store a lot of items that aren't necessarily relevant to the construction around them. They're just storing stuff around there. And then we also brought you these two ladies who own this whiskey and wine shop. And this final video here is to show these different apps that they're using to help connect all the stores around 2nd Avenue.
Allegedly December, but nobody ever actually knows.
Local businesses like Kennedy's have come together to keep their businesses afloat. They've
Great.
developed a smartphone app that is...
So that's the entire story. We wanted to take you from street level again all the way down into the tunnel, let you explore the entire area around there, and then take you above ground and help explain the struggles that a lot of people are working with in there and how also they're overcoming those struggles to help connect a lot of stories around. So again, about the process of this story, this took about 4 months to do overall, but we only had 5 days to actually report on the entire thing in New York. We were using the AP's newsroom in Manhattan as our home base, and also met with the Google News Lab to help pitch this story and help that StorySphere there we were able to make that by going to Google, asking them to use some of their embed codes from the street views and then put them together so that it's not just one image, but it's 2 blocks, I guess, of the street level that you can go and just walk through and look around actually at what you're seeing and listening to those store owners talk about their difficulties. Also, just talking about what it was like to report in New York. We had never been there before. It was my first time in New York, actually, so it was a great experience as well to not only work in a pretty professional setting, but also to go and pitch your story to people who would potentially help you with it. What else do we have here? Okay, so another goal of our project was to build a plan for how community newspapers such as the Columbia Missourian, which I work at right now, could help pull off a story like this. So just to give you a little bit more perspective on the equipment we were using a Ricoh Theta, not the newest model that's out now, which shoots in 4K, but we were using the M15, which was the first model that ever came out. That shoots in 720, and then when you crunch it down into YouTube to put something like a 360 video, which you see on top out there, it kind of crunches down to like a 420p almost. So that was probably the hardest thing for us in post-production, was finding a way to keep our quality of our video in a way that you could actually recognize what you were looking at, but also putting it up on a site like YouTube so you could easily show it to everybody. So the Theta models, they cost about $300 to $350, depending on how much you wanted to spend. And then, for that Matterport 3D scanner, that costs about $5,000, and then it's a $90 a month subscription to the actual editing service. So that's a pretty expensive tool in itself. But when you look at the Ricoh Theta compared to buying 6 GoPros and a rig itself, it's a pretty good deal. And also they're really easy to use. They connect to your phone via Wi-Fi, and then you can upload those videos either to a computer or directly to YouTube themselves. So we wanted people to know in a community newsroom setting that if you wanted to do stories like this, first of all, you have to realize that you can't just shoot anything like this in 360 or VR. You have to know specifically that the type of setting you're in, and that those visuals have to be the main part of the story. So like when you're walking through these kind of corridors of the subway station, we know that nobody, even if you ride the subway every single day, will be able to see those places. You won't ever see the crossover station. So that's what we wanted to give people. And overall, we're really excited to help show you guys everything. I think it turned out pretty well. And also, if you want to visit the entire story, you can just Google AP Interactives / 2nd Avenue Subway, and you should see it up there. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Taylor. So our final team this morning is from the University of Florida. We have Andrew Briz, Taylor Gaines, and Laura Johnson. They're going to talk about collaboration in the Brain Trust from their innovative storytelling class. Their advisor was Matt Sheehan, team from University of Florida.
That song is Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie, the late, great David Bowie. And Freddie Mercury is late and great, too. But
I think so.
But we're not quite them. But we are going to talk about what working together and collaborating can do. I'm Taylor Gaines. I'm a journalism major focused on media at the University of Florida.
I am Lauren Johnson. I am a junior journalism major who is interested in design.
And I'm Andrew Briz. I'm a sophomore. I focus on web coding and interactive elements. So one thing, we've seen some great presentations today, and one thing I've noticed is common in most of the presentations we've seen throughout the entire conference is collaboration. It's working together to form something great. And another theme is that normally that collaboration comes from the top down. Some sort of professor, some sort of advisor comes and tells them, we should work on this project together. Here's this awesome pitch. Let's work together. And it creates some great, great stories. But there isn't quite anything yet in most colleges, especially not ours, until now, where students can form this kind of bond and this collaboration just themselves, peer to peer. And that's where Story Collaboratory comes in. Story Collaboratory is a place where students at all levels of the idea process, from conception all the way to execution, can come together to talk about their ideas. And they can get feedback and be asked the right questions that really help make sure that their stories are the best possible versions of themselves. So we're going to tell you about how we did that, but before we did, I want to talk a little bit about why, or Taylor's going to talk a little bit about why.
Yeah, so we got started. Do you have that? Yeah, well, this is your brain. If you don't collaborate, you get frustrated sometimes, and you're stuck high-fiving the air. So it started off for us with me. I was sitting working on a story on deadline one night, just, trapped in my computer where you're so far into the story that you just need anyone else to look at it. You need to do anything else to step away. And I thought, in my procrastination stage, I guess, I began thinking about the culture that we were in and kind of the competitive environment that we're raised in from the time we're like 5 years old, where it's like, be better than the person next to you, get into this college, get this job, do this, blah, blah, blah. And you're so focused on yourself and stuck inside that you kind of forget our goal as journalists, as storytellers, is to tell the best story possible. And I thought, shouldn't we do that by any means possible? So the solution was right in front of us. Did that come up? There it is. So how it got started was we had a class where we read a book called Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull that details the culture of Pixar and the way that they use collaboration to enhance all of their work. And we are going to talk about, so basically, what I thought is it's not just about a place we could go, which we did do, we're going to talk about that, but it's about changing the culture. So we formed a discussion group where candor was not only allowed, but it was expected. And I believe I need to click the thing. There we go. The brain trust is what we called it, which is based off of a brain trust that Pixar uses as well. So we came up with that, and it basically created an environment where I felt comfortable coming forward with my fairly undeveloped idea that we wound up turning into Story Collaboratory. So basically, that's the gist of it is I wanted a place where journalists could go at any stage in the process to work together to make things better. You look around, you get all the greatest journalism is done in teams. You've got the Spotlight team, Woodward and Bernstein, the Guardian team who worked on the NSA story, all of that stuff. So, one more thing. Actually, sorry, I'm out of order. But anyway, that was the idea, that was the genesis, and Story Collaboratory was born.
So our catchline for Story Collaboratory is, we all tell stories, let's talk about them. So for the marketing for Story Collaboratory, we wanted to, next slide.
The left is the one that's...
Oh, sorry. So the promotion for our event was mainly geared towards the millennial generation. With that being said, we mainly centered the promotion of our event primarily around social media. Weeks leading up to the event, we tweeted and posted to Facebook in order to interest our peers. Sorry. We also incorporated more traditional forms of advertising, such as posters, to which we plastered all over Weimer Hall. So, as you can see on the slide, we wanted to kind of get creative, so we used headlines such as, "Listen up, you son of a pitch." So before each event, if someone would like to present, they must first get their idea approved. If their idea is to be approved, then they are given 7 minutes to present their idea and then 3 minutes to receive feedback from the audience. So one of our presenters was Ethan Bauer, the assistant sports editor at the Independent Florida Alligator, and he needed help trying to find a social angle for his story on the decline of sexism in cheerleading. Ethan said that he had a rough idea of what he wanted to accomplish, but was unsure of how to proceed. So he came to Story Collaboratory. After pitching his idea and receiving feedback, Ethan said he mainly received good advice and appreciated that the audience did not spoon-feed him ideas. Ethan said the most invaluable advice he received was to interview athletes to see their take on being cheered for at events. Ethan said overall, Story Collaboratory was a great experience and only has a few suggestions of how to make the presentation even better, which includes allowing each presenter more time to receive feedback and for Story Collaboratory to continue collaborating with the University of Florida in order to further promote each event. With that being said, we believe that our first Story Collaboratory went well, but we still need to refine our idea. So with that, I'm gonna let Andrew finish.
Thank you, Lauren. Much more polite than Kanye. So where do we go from here? Well, if I was on Shark Tank, I think the next question would be, how do you scale this idea? How does it scale? So it scales in predominantly 3 ways: more entries, more colleges, and more universities. The first step is to increase the application pool. How do you do that? As an organizer of the event, the one thing you can do to boost the success and the scalability of this is to spread the word. Spreading the word creates a larger application pool, and this creates a cycle that will keep growing the event by itself. Because larger application pool means there's going to be better ideas presented. You get to be more selective with which ones get approved and which ones make it to the final presentation. This means that a higher audience will come, because if you advertise these great ideas that are being presented, more people want to show up. People show up to see the pitches, they think this is a great idea, I want to pitch next time, so that makes even a larger application pool, and so you see the cycle continues. But that's not the only way that it'll scale. The next step is to scale past just the College of Journalism and Communications and into even other colleges. You want to shake the hands of some businessmen. I'm not sure how many people get that reference, but for the journalism in the crowd, I'm sure many of you do. So communications aren't the only ones who can collaborate. You want to collaborate with people in the political science department, the economics department, computer science department. We as journalists already agree that we aren't experts in everything. We seek out these people, these smart people who are experts in their field, as sources. But I think we also sometimes need them not just as sources, but as partners. Economics majors, political science majors, they have their own stories that they want to tell. They want to help create awesome stories to get out to other people. That's why they study these things. But sometimes they're not the best at presenting these stories, and that's where we can collaborate with them. And I think that'll be a great, you'll create some great stories that way. Finally, our next step, our end goal, is to expand to more universities. So the great thing about Story Collaboratory is it's extremely, extremely cheap. It's very easily implementable. All you need to do is set up a website, that's free, set up a form, Google Forms, that's also free, and set up an event, which might cost you some money. I think we bought some pizzas for people to get people to show up. So essentially our cost of production was a couple posters and 5 or so boxes of pizza. You also make sure you want to do a lot of advertising. That's the hardest part. You need a large application pool to make this work. If you have no one show up, the idea kind of dies right there. So our end goal is to have one of these in every major university across the country. And so feel free, if any of you want, to reach out to us. Those are our Twitter handles. We will be more than happy to share with you the assets that we did, the assets we have to, get you boost started to make sure you have a great Story Collaboratory at university as well. So that's our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Let's hear it for all 4 teams this morning. They did a great job. I think it's really kind of remarkable. I think all these examples this morning really show demonstrate the expanse of journalism education today. We talked about community engagement. We talked about data journalism. We talked about multimedia storytelling and the art of collaboration. And I think we been having these conversations 5 years ago. Maybe not, but I think it really shows how we're teaching journalism today and how these students are taking advantage of that. We're actually a little early. Does anybody have any questions for any of the teams? I can see any questions, or anybody else want to add something they may be doing in their school? Probably not. Okay, so then we will end a little early. We have a break till 11:15. And then we'll be back here. So thank you all, and thanks to the teams.